Hop on with us as we dive into the latest topics, share some laughs, and bring you insightful conversations in and around the realm of ag. From down-home wisdom to cutting-edge tech, we've got what you need to fuel your curiosity. So tune in, relax, and let's kick back. On the Tailgate, presented by Wade Incorporated.
Alrighty. Welcome back to another episode on the Tailgate. This is part one of our Operations Center series deep dive. So we're going to talk about the setup tab in Op Center. But of course, I'm your host, Cade Moody. I've got my co-host, Gaston Line, and our fearless producer again, Mr. Riggs Ware. Riggs.
How are y'all?
Yeah. And then on the Tailgate, we got Patrick Johnson, a Telefarm Technology Specialist, covers the Columbus, Greenwood, and Grenada and Sumner locations, all things technology, and repeat guest.
I was about to say, multiple episode guest.
I
don't know if that's good or bad.
I
think it just has a lot to do with your office being right here.
Right, yeah.
Availability.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the setup tab. So we did an overview on Operations Center, talked about everything kind of high level. We're going to dive into the weeds on all things setup. So in the setup tab, just an overview, we got the connections, data sync, equipment, geofences and curfews, land, licenses, products, setup file, and team. So we're going to just start at the top. Patrick, just kind of give us, we'll spend more time on some than others, but give us a little bit of insights on the connections button, how to use it, when to use it, how can it help me, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so, when a farmer comes in, especially a new account or somebody that really, they pull yield maps or just look at some basic stuff, but when they want to get down to precision ag, setup file is the first place to go. It's as Cade said, when you drop that box down, the first tab there is a connections. And I think 5 years ago when we started here, there were 50, 60 connections, maybe. I think it's 200.
I got no idea. It's a ton now.
Yeah, you can't hardly scroll. I've never even heard of most of them. But, it's some very user-friendly connections in there. It's connections that involve some fertility, soil fertility, where you can pull in data. There's some financial connections in there.
Like
harvest
profit.
Harvest profit's a big one. So, you're not just pulling in yield or soil data, but the farmer can carry it to a whole nother level through maybe a third party that breaks it down per acre. Actually, what they made that year on that acre.
I know we got some customers using it. It's a way of eliminating double entry.
Yeah.
If you spend the time, so we've talked about on another episode, work planner, and you talked about putting that variety in there correctly, putting your rate in there correctly, putting your tank mix in that sprayer correctly so that when they go to the field, it's actually documenting what you're putting out, how much you're using. Then that data can flow back in through one of these third-party connections, and you can assign a dollar figure to X product in the tank mix, and it'll kind of run your, not just, hey, you used X gallons, but hey, you spent $375 on this block in this.
And I think some people probably look at that and think that those connections are Deere owned, and that's the minority of them are Deere owned. Most of those connections are just third party. They the data runs through our machines, and Deere offers a connection. Usually the way the connection works is you go in there, you find what you're wanting to link to, and just say PCT and cotton for that we had some trials last year. That's a total, third party. It's no ownership with Deere, but they're able to take module data where it was created in the field. The gens it, and and that data is fed up through PCT, and they get yield quality maps, back in the Op Center. My point is there, though, the way that works is once you hit that PCT connection, you utilize your login in PCT to basically grant access back into Op Center. So it's and that's the way most platforms work. FieldView's another one. You'll connect to it. You'll have to have your username and password for FieldView to set that connection up.
And Op Center just works as like the highway to get that data
Yes, exactly.
to or from wherever.
I think it's huge to stress is that John Deere has created a system that is that a lot of features in there that are directed at the equipment that we're using. I don't know. It's more on the equipment side that's producing this data, but then there's other systems, other people out there that want to analyze something different, but need this information to do that, and maybe vice versa. So it's saying that, hey, you're better at this over here, and we'd love to share the data over there, and then you bring it back in here. It's just allowing things to talk. That's been such a tough situation over the last 10 years.
Everybody was fighting over the data.
Yeah, everybody wants the data.
Everybody wants, yes, yeah.
But I had so many customers that would say, "I want it all to be in one place." Well, it's challenging when you got different types of equipment on your farm, different retailers you may be dealing with that are looking at soil data. Anyway, it just, to me, it says a lot that Deere's opened that up and allowed things to flow both ways and allow the customer to decide who needs to analyze this data. And there may be another program out there that I need to get more detailed on. Hey, we're good with you doing that.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. You take, it's kind of like Apple. I mean, you've got an Apple Watch, a MacBook, Apple TV. That stuff connects beautifully, but you move that concept to a farm, and he runs a certain planter that he's comfortable with. It may not be a Deere planter, and you can carry that across multiple pieces of equipment. Raven, you got Slingshot that's now becoming online and a direct connection. So I agree. It's one of those things where, if a farmer's comfortable with it, wants to see data from that platform, but being able to log into Op Center, being able to utilize a Deere piece of equipment with that monitor running, but it's seamless data back into Op Center where he has one platform to view it all, is just it eliminates a lot of chaos having to go across multiple platforms to see one thing that you're trying to see.
I think Cade maybe can speak on this too. I feel like we want Op Center to be your base for everything. That's where you start. And then, you allow some stuff to flow out, and there may be another software that you have to go look at some more detailed stuff in. But we start with Op Center, where your equipment is running and whatnot, and then kind of come from there.
Well, Op Center gives you just what you just said. Op Center is a great base because, that's where your RTK boundaries are. Mm-hmm. That's where your guidance tracks are. Yeah. That's where your machines are, your machine analytical reports are. So, so much, of what you're running out there as far as Deere equipment, that creates a perfect base. Yep. Then we can build on the base.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a good transition, too. And, of course, any specific questions y'all have on the Connections tab, feel free to reach out to us on the tailgate at wadeinc.com. But good segue into the equipment section of the setup tab. So you're talking about the machines. In the equipment, of course, you've got a list of everything that's online. You got a list of everything that's not online. Assuming everything is connected, you should have a list of your displays, receivers, software, what software is currently on them, implements, which I know we got some changes coming to implement profiles and whatnot. Maybe this summer, 25.2 update.
Yeah.
So we'll get a little more information on how it connects to the tractor, some other offsets. What else kind of sticks out to you on the equipment tab that's important to get in front of?
Equipment is when a farmer calls with some kind of just issue that you really don't know the answer right off the top of your head. The equipment's the first place I look to check the modem, because when you go into that equipment profile, it lists everything there. Then you can dive into that one tractor and you can see its pairings. And by pairings, I mean you can see the modem. And so long as that modem's pulling in that display, and then you see the receiver also right there, well, then you know right then, okay, that equipment should have an Ethernet cable, which will allow the data to flow wireless.
Yeah, both to and from that piece of equipment.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate goal. We want this data flowing wireless.
Makes supporting that customer a whole lot easier from a dealer perspective.
Yep.
Also makes that data retrieval and that analytics that much easier, because you're getting it.
Yeah, and then you get into remote display access. For a farmer, I mean, we saw lots of issues just out of our office being able to remote into a display, but you take a farm manager or owner that's, man, he's spread out across 30 miles. Think how much time he can save by being able to RDA into that display, and he sees the issue right there on the screen. So
yeah, that's almost a must in this day and age.
Then you talked about software.
Yeah, huge.
Huge. We can see right there that, hey, this guy's running 22-4 software. We're at 25.1 now. Well, we know the bug fixes that occurred between 22.2 to where we are now. He needs updated software.
And updating usually will fix most
It
problems.
fixes a lot of bug fixes, yeah. And some of the new stuff, like Kay was talking about, implement profile, some changes coming there with 25.2. Deere will let us know what's in that software.
So do we update it, or
That's what I was about to ask.
No, they can update it over the air, right there at the
How are
shop.
you? How is the RDA helping with that? Are you just seeing it when you get into it, or are they telling you what's?
So if we know what's involved in an update, like 25.2, that will be a big one. We will communicate that out, because we know that's going to be a big advantage with the implement profiles.
We actually have some customers that have reached out specifically on the issues with implement profiles.
That's
so
right.
those will be the first people that we call when 25.2 hits. We're going to reach out to them and say, hey, it's a good idea if you update your displays so that you unlock these new implement profiles. It's going to make the tool more useful for you. But as far as finding the software, it's literally just right there. And this isn't a dealer tool. This is a customer tool. You just go into equipment, go into devices, and it's going to have all of your displays, all of your receivers, assuming it's hooked to the machine that's online, and the serial number and the software version that's on it now.
On
your
Op
computer,
Center. On your
yep.
Op Center.
On Op Center.
Okay.
So-
So you can
so-
push it from there.
Well, you're not going to push it. The farmer, well, you could through Service Advisor
Okay.
remote, but you just go into the display, the whoever's tractor it is, and go to Software Manager and pull them in.
Yeah, it just pulls in. Yeah.
So it's just as easy as updating your phone.
Exactly the
Yeah.
same. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, perfect rainy day project.
Is there a notification that pops up anywhere that says there needs to be an update?
I think you'll probably get an email release from Deere if it's a major update. Now, if it's a minimal version, revision, like 25.1.2, probably not. But when the big ones hit, usually all Operation Center users, I believe, should get an email notifying it.
Yep.
But again, like we said, if it's a big one, if we know there's some good stuff in it, we're probably going to be proactive about it and reach out to those customers that we know can benefit from it.
And if it's an issue, a farmer's calling about an issue with something guidance related, or something in that display is not acting right, the first step, and you can call Deere whatever you want to do. The first step is going ahead and updating the software.
You're exactly right.
You know.
If you have a problem, regardless, and this is why we hear the frustration from customers all the time. But our first thing is going to be let's do the old John Deere reset.
That's right.
Let's get power off of it, key off, power cycle. battery switch if you got it. Step 2 is going to be update software, and there's some frustration there. But our thing is, if we open a case on this and we try to get some assistance from Deere on whatever this issue is, and they see that it's 22.2 software, that's going to be their first thing is, hey, y'all need to update software. So it's not us trying to, get out of assisting you. It's truly this is going to be step 1. Let's go ahead and get out of the way so that when I do get a case open, then we can actually start troubleshooting a real issue.
Yep.
So. All right, well, that's good stuff on equipment. I want to bounce around a little bit. This one may take a little bit, but the land tab, this is your pride and joy here, Patrick,
Yeah.
where you spend 80% of your day.
So it's got Ops Center. Of course, we've been talking about seamless data flow, right? In-field data sharing between, up to 6 pieces of equipment running in the same field can flow. Data can the work setup can flow between those pieces of equipment. Well, none of that's going to work if the land, the client farm field management doesn't stay clean. So much of our time in spending with customers over the winter or prior to planting season, whenever that occurs, is right there in that land feature. And it starts with, all right, what's our client name, which is usually the easiest step, but then you break out by farm. And every farm, you got your fields. So all of that you want to have an associated boundary with, because so much when we talk about trash, when you go into that land feature and you see down at the bottom, it'll give you totals, and you see 20 clients and 46 farms and 320 fields. You got a mess. I mean, because that setup file. If you take that data, create a setup file, and push that to all that guy's equipment for that year, he's got chaos.
The amount of time, and this is the unknown number, but the amount of time spent on the turn row that guy's having to find his line or his field or whatever is going to go through the roof when you send that setup file versus what we'll talk about in a second. If you get that clean account, you hit that data sync button.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can't quantify it really, but it doesn't take much to realize how much easier it is when that tractor tells you, hey, I'm in this field, versus you having to go into that tractor and say, all right, let's see what client. Oh, I got 8 different Moody farms, all of them spelled differently. It just it can be a catastrophe.
Capital M on some.
Yeah,
lowercase
exactly.
M on some.
Yeah, space, no space, a squiggly one.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And I want to say, you're talking about the field, and there's a lot of different naming practices for field. You got the guys that have the common names in Op Center, back 40 or Mom's Place, and then you got the guys that are just big number guys, field 1, field 2, field 3. You got some guys that go in there, and I think there's a new update that's going to make this a little bit easier. But I've got some guys that use the FSA maps with their field names, and so that makes it super complicated because you got this hard. Nobody knows where field 1392-1 is. But I believe now in land, you can go in and have that common name. It can be back 40, but then I can also go assign it. I can have a secondary FSA name for that field.
You can. Yeah, there's a box now where you can
Yeah,
assign
that's
that.
a big deal.
Yeah,
that way some of your reports and stuff you'll be
Yep.
able to generate, and you don't have to look at your phone and try to figure out where that 1391-2 field is. So,
Yeah, and then these same farmers are just sending uploaded data to FSA offices at the end of the year after yield's done, and it's easy for them.
it's very easy.
to hit an export button, send it straight through an email.
Yeah, if you're going to do all that work like we talk about all the time, if you're going to do all that to document correctly, you might as well get the benefits out of
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
And then I know the cleanup features in land have gotten a lot better
Yeah.
in recent years. You're able to go in there and basically filter for no guidance, no boundary, no work.
No work, no flags, no.
And
yeah.
if a field doesn't have that, there's a pretty good chance you can get rid of it.
Yeah.
Mass delete, I guess.
Yeah.
Mass
Yeah.
edit
Get 'em out of
features
there.
that makes it
yeah,
easier.
at least mass archive, and then you can delete out of archive.
That archive feature is pretty neat.
It
It's
is.
something that I've
Yeah.
never experienced in any other system
It
I've
it's
seen.
definitely has more pros than cons. The cons is if you have an archive field, but that tractor is recording out there off of that field name, that data is being archived.
Yeah.
Which
So-
again is something we can solve with that data sync feature.
yeah.
If we talk,
Oh, yeah.
we'll talk about that here in just a second. But you don't realize how many people have fear of commitments until you try to hard delete some of their field names.
Yeah.
And then they're like, whoa, now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
sir, you haven't farmed this place in 10 years. Yeah, but I might pick it back up.
Yeah.
Land, we're of course we're hitting the 1,000-foot view of land. When you get a farm in this room and pull it up and start on this project, that can be a 30-minute cleanup. That can be a 3-hour cleanup. It's you never know as to how trashy it is, how they want it. I had some farmers who have been farming for a long time. Data's been hitting Op Center, but it was to the point of so much trash has over the years has accumulated that we basically started over.
But you put it in the archive, and if you wanted to pull something out, you could, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and that's what you do. I mean, you're not ever permanently deleting things. I guess you could.
It depends.
Yeah, if you know, like if
Yeah.
you buy a used tractor and that display didn't get reset,
Yeah.
and you get all of that guy's information, guidance tracks, Climb Farm Fields, and it hits your op center, that's a pretty good delete button
those are the
option
easy
there.
ones.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like what you're talking
But no,
about right
you're
there.
right.
Throw
You're right.
everything in the archive.
Throw everything in the
Let's
archive.
start fresh. But hey, if we have all winter long, we want to sit down and look at it and
Yeah.
Yep.
extract it back. We
Yeah.
could.
And the ideal thing, so many farmers now are rigging up side by sides, or even using water fur tractors,
The smaller tractors,
smaller
yeah.
tractors, and they're starting to run their own boundaries. And the reason behind that is that farmer is the only one who knows how he wants that boundary run. We've put interns in the field, and it works. We can run around a turn row. But we don't know if that farmer wants flags around certain things. We don't know if he wants to include a culvert within that boundary or go around it. It really is. It helps so much if that farmer, whether it's he or a manager or somebody on that farm that knows how they plant it, farm it, to run the boundaries. And then what you're able to do, if you have one of these, just a lot of trash in that account, sometimes the easiest way is back all that in the archive with gassing like you were talking about. But when that farmer goes and he starts naming and redoing his, just say he had drawn boundaries. Mm-hmm. Well, now he wants to go RTK because he wants to utilize Work Planner. All right. He's also done a lot of land leveling, so he's got pads. So that's going to bring in internal boundaries. So when he goes and does that, and he enters before he starts that boundary, he goes ahead and enters that client, that farm, and that field before he starts recording. All that comes back into land, and it's done. Mm-hmm. The editing is already done because he put all that data in prior to running the boundary. And then all we have to do is take his right guidance tracks and copy those guidance tracks back into to that new boundary, and he's got a clean setup file ready to go to his equipment.
Yeah, and we mentioned that on the Work Planner episode, but basically that's the perfect setup. It is a clean client list, clean farm list. All fields have a boundary, and all fields have a guidance track or multiple, but just the ones that you need. Get the combine angle tracks out of there. Get your tillage tracks so your guys went and dropped a quick line or an AB line. Get them out of there.
And
get only what you need.
Name the guidance track.
Name it rows. Name it 12 row, 6 row, 8 row, whatever you got back. 120-foot sprayer, whatever you got. Name it. You're exactly right.
I started recognizing. I didn't bring it up. Actually, it was a farmer that was doing it. But he put a date. He redid his account, reran boundaries, and he started putting a date on his guidance track. Phenomenal idea, because of course we have the repeatability, right? These we're going to run on that line for 5, 10 years. But you can always filter back to, say, 2025 is when we know that line was created. We know that that set of 2025 lines is what we want to utilize from here on. And you can filter out everything else, archive, and you're back to your original 2025 lines that you know are correct.
Yeah.
When we talk about getting clean data, and we're stressing the importance of that, I think it's important to state here that it's not anything to get overwhelmed about, because you've got people like y'all ready to assist in cleaning that up, or at least give a customer direction on how to do it, and state, hey, maybe we're not there right now, but let's get it cleaned up and then show you some practices that keep you clean down the road. So I just know in the past, people will look at it and get a little, they'll just get burnt out pretty quick on what it takes to get it right.
Oh yeah.
But you've got the people and the resources here that can help you get there.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of getting that thing fixed.
That's
and
why I
clean.
say that, we talk about this setup tab that we're discussing. That one-on-one meeting in land has got to occur. At some point during the fall, winter months, we have to get that right, and that's where most of the time is going to be spent. Is right there. But if they will come here, call us if they need help. A lot of these guys are doing it themselves now.
Yeah.
But if they'll take the time to and spend it right there, their operation will run so much smoother from that point forward for the next year.
And just to expand on those one-on-ones, so what Patrick's referring to is sometime in the winter months, usually they're in the winter months, sit down with your IntelliFarm representative. We got 4 of them scattered across North Mississippi, and they are absolute experts in all things Operation Center. And I know, back to what I was saying earlier about being scared to delete stuff, I know you get in there and you see it, like you mentioned on the Work Planner episode, you mentioned a customer who said he would like to use Op Center, but every time he get in there, he'd just see a bunch of junk, and it frustrated me to get out.
He'd just get out.
Right.
Yeah.
We are here to make sure you don't lose data, make sure you don't lose the lines that you need, make sure you have exactly what you need in that tractor so that you can take advantage of some of the efficiencies that this technology allows you to. So, and another thing that will help you clean up, and I want to move on to it, is the products tab. So Patrick, tell us a little bit about products and the importance of having it clean without a lot of junk in there.
Yeah. So this kind of goes back to work. I reference so much back to Work Planner, but so right here in products, you're able to go in and you're able to go ahead and populate what you know you're going to be using. And of course, a lot of your base chemicals, Gaston, you know this from your prior world, a lot of that's going to be the same the next year. Mm-hmm. But, some of that changes, varieties change. So products is a place to build varieties, your variety list, your chemical list, build your tank mixes.
And not even have to be perfect on it. It's going from 1,000 seed varieties or 1,000 chemicals down to what you probably have used in the past and what you may use, brings it down to 20 maybe.
Oh yeah,
just something easy to look at.
But where this comes into play is when you populate that as close as you can, like you say, through the year, things are going to change. But it's so simple to add a product. But when you get ready to use Work Planner, and that is already populated, when it asks you to pick your variety, that drop down box is going to drop down what you have put in your products tab. So it just makes building that work plan for that field that much quicker because you've already got it, and it's your list.
We're not referring to what you pick on the tractor. You're talking about still on the front end.
I'm on the front end.
Yeah, you're still in the planning phase. That's
Yeah.
getting in front of any problems you have pulling into the field.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what we talk about in the work plan episode is if you do it from your phone beforehand, they don't have to do it in that cab.
Right.
So all this turn row time that we've been talking about avoiding is truly eliminated with all of that. So, but yeah, the products tab, clean varieties, clean tank mixes, everything's spelled correctly. You
Yeah.
know, that's the thing. And there's a massive database there.
That's what I was going to
that'll
mention.
pull in registration numbers and stuff.
There's kind of the old green book. It's pretty much there. You know, so you're correct spelling. A lot of the products now even pull the EPA number in.
Yeah.
So it's
Huge
right
for
there.
spray records.
Huge for spray records. Yes.
And we've even done some tests with some local seed companies in there to go through that database and see if their stuff is there, and it is.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's a significant database. But of course, if you are running that, whether it's some kind of a trial or you want a custom name, it gives you the ability to do that as
Sure.
well. You're
Oh,
not
yeah.
tied to that database. You can create a custom product.
And then, you know, in products, we kind of touched on implements.
Yeah,
We don't quite know what 25.2 software is going to look like. What we're hoping for is that you can build your implement with your, you know, kind of put in your offsets and all that kind of stuff. Basically implement characteristics, and that flows to the display as well through the setup file. That's what I'm hoping is coming. I just don't until I see it. I'm not 100% sure on that.
So we get clean land, we get everything set up the way we want to in products. I want to jump to the data sync button. Fairly new. We discussed it a little bit in our intro to Op Center episodes, but kind of want to dive into it here. What is it? What's it do? How do I turn it on? What are some of my requirements, display requirements? Walk us through a little bit about data sync.
Yeah, so data sync is so in the past we've utilized the setup file creator, which is under this setup tab. But up at the top you'll see data sync, and what that is you can enable any piece of equipment. Of course, it requires Gen 4 and up. You know, the newest software, V2 processor, all that you know, needs to be up to date. But what it'll allow you to do is, if you want to just data sync, say for instance, your combines or just your 2 sprayers, or you want to data sync, you're comfortable enough that your op center is so clean with guidance tracks and boundaries and, you know, client farm field names, you may want to data sync every piece of equipment you have. You know, you're comfortable with your operators out there not pulling in junk. This really flows perfect with work planner guys, because they're the guys that are creating plans so junk's not coming back into op center. And in the way the concept behind data sync is, whatever is enabled, you have your base op center, then any tractor, combine, sprayer, picker, whatever piece of equipment you have enabled, if they go to the field and they set a guidance track, for instance, let's just say one hipper tractor goes to the field. He's the first one out there. They're going to run 3 hippers. I'm just using this as an example. He sets a track. You know, maybe they're changing their rows. I'm just throwing a scenario out. He changes their row pattern. When he sets that track, if those other 2 tractors are also enabled with data sync, it automatically is going to share that line with those other 2 tractors and with op center. So
And everything else enabled.
And everything else that's enabled. So basically the way I kind of picture it is you've got a revolving circle, that any change in that revolving circle sends it to everything else.
Yeah. And back to products. You get that call from the seed guy and they ran out of this variety, so they're sending you another one. I get on my phone, I go to set up on my phone, I add that variety. Now all of my tractors have access to it, you know, as soon as I hit save.
Does that include sprayers and all that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
It depends. You have complete customization. So let's say you picked up some new land, and I'm going to send this 8R310 number 2 to go row it up in the fall. I have none of those boundaries, none of those field names, none of those guidance tracks in my account. I turn data sync on. Let's say everybody else is doing tillage, so I don't want their stuff, so I've turned data sync off. But I turn data sync on for that 8R number 2 so that every time he goes out there and he drops that AB line to row up that new land, it hits my op center. So now once we go to the field, I enable data sync for my fleet. Everybody has access to that guidance track, those new field names. They're not having to hunt that stuff down, which then again, I'm going to have access to it when I want to send that work plan to whatever machine may be going to the field.
Just makes everything easier.
It's like what Patrick said. It's just that revolving door. Instead of having to chase everything and go, because, setup data has not come through to Op Center seamlessly. It is guidance tracks at least. It is forced export.
Yeah.
You're either going to go tell the display to send it, or I'm going to stick a thumb drive in it. Now we don't have to chase that stuff down.
Yeah. Pros and cons are involved with data.
Yeah, for sure.
Data sync, because if you still have an operation where you have operators going to the field, and you're still running into issues where they're shifting, or they don't know their field name, or they call it one thing, but the farmer he wants it named this. Well, data sync's going to pull that in. It's going to pull it back to Op Center. Then you're back to having some editing junk out. So it does have, it does have some cons. There are farmers that are leery about it because of that. They've spent the time to get their Op Center cleaned up. The last thing they want to do is junk it back up. Where I've seen huge successes with it is a farm running 3 or 4 combines. And I think 2 years ago, we had one of our first experiences with it was on a farm that was running 3 combines. Well, we introduced it actually to him prior to harvest, and he didn't want his tractors on it. He didn't want his sprayers on it. But he's like, wait a minute. He says, so you're telling me when I'm harvesting beans at an angle, and that lead combine goes in there and sets that angle track, when those other 2 come in there, it automatically picks up. I'm like, yeah. That's the concept behind it. Started using it. He has not turned it off, his harvest equipment, since. Just an example. But again, right now he's only using it on his combines. Now some farms now are getting, to the point where they're comfortable enough to light up, all pieces of equipment. It's a learning phase, and I like the idea of maybe only starting with a couple of tractors. Maybe only starting in the fall with those 2 that are going to be rowing up, or maybe your 2 sprayers, or maybe your 3 combines. Start small and see how it works, see how you like it. Then you understand the concept of it, and more than likely you're going to light up more equipment the next year.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you did the grunt work. You got your land tab cleaned up. You got your products tab cleaned up. You got everything online. You might as well reap the benefits. Turn it on. You'll never send another setup file again.
That's it.
Last time I checked, though, implements aren't going through yet. That's coming 25 too. And adaptive curves, I don't think are supported with data sync. So, but outside of that, everything in that account should be good to go.
Yep.
And then just kind of wrapping up on the setup tab are the things we'll discuss. If you cannot use data sync, when would I use setup file creator, and what all can it do that data sync cannot?
Setup file creator is going to obviously, we'll just kind of run through it real quick. You're going to select whether you're sending to a Gen 4 or Gen 5 display. If you're sending to a 2630 display, that you got to create it under that separate. That's a separate.
Yeah, so unlock some of those older generations.
That's right.
Even back to, I believe there's an 1800.
I think it
2600,
is. Yeah.
1800 setting. Yeah.
So you got to be sure you select. Of course, it's written right there. It's very easy to see which one to select. But you select your display, you name your file, and you're basically just gonna build. Land is the next option, so that's going to include client farm fields, boundaries, flags, guidance tracks. Most people just select the top button, select everything. Then it's going to move into machines, so you select your machines and implements. Then it's going to move into your products, and then it's going to move into operators. Some people utilize operator names, and then it's setup files are so easy. It's you're going to create the file, and then anything that's wireless data compatible, you're just going to hit create and send, and it's going to bundle that package up. It's going to save it in your files in Op Center, so you can always go back to that, where you set that file up. But it's going to be an automatic push to anything that's wireless data capable.
Yeah. Yep. Good. And was the tool the only option before Data Sync and Work Planner came around?
Yep.
So it's not a bad tool. It's just there are other options.
Yeah,
now.
it's a great. Yeah, I mean, we couldn't survive without the setup file creator. But Data Sync is starting to take over. You can see us transition.
If you're set up for it.
If you're set up for it, the transition is not utilizing setup file creator anymore. It's using Data Sync.
But like one unique instance where you can only use setup file creator, you mentioned the water furrow tractor earlier. I only want to send him adaptive curve lines.
Oh, yeah.
I go into setup file creator.
Yeah.
I filter for adaptive curve lines. I highlight every one of them, and I only send that to that machine.
You do not
that guy's got one job out there, and he can't mess it up now.
I don't think you want your water for a tractor to ever be data synced.
Right. Agreed.
Because that's going to bring in 1 million adaptive curve lines that no other tractor needs.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. And so lastly here, I'm just briefly going to touch on team, underutilized aspect of Operation Center, I would say. You got 2 farm managers in your operation. A lot of users we have out there now are passing their username and password around to these farm managers, to these operators. The issue that we've seen there is you get 3 chances to log into that Op Center account. 3 strikes and you're out. And if I gave you my password, if I gave Riggs and Gaston my password to log in, and Riggs forgets it, and he locks us out, you're out, I'm out, Gaston's out, could cause some issues on the farm when boss man can't get in and see that display and see what's going on. So easiest way to avoid that, go into the team section on the setup app, add them as a staff member. Add these guys as staff members. Add your operators as staff members if you need them to have, you control the access levels. You can keep it to where they can't manage anything, but they can see everything. Whatever you want to do, the permission levels are endless in there.
Yeah.
You're agronomist.
Yeah. And it's
add
easy.
whoever.
Yeah. That like you say, that user on your farm that you want to add, I mean, he's going to get an email. He's going to go in there and basically create his own password, username and password, and then he has, when he opens it up under his login, it's going to open up to your account based on the accesses you gave him.
Right.
Very simple.
There's too much getting into Op Center now for you to be handing around that username and password for the account holder.
Yeah, agreed.
There's a lot of stuff in there that you don't necessarily want being broadcast. So create the staff member, give them the access they need. And again, if you got any issues with that or setting that up, your IntelliFarm rep is your source. So, all right, we kind of blew through that. I know we left out a few tabs, but I feel like we hit the high points and dove into the sections that were necessary. Last thoughts?
I've got an important question. Is the word pronounced data or data?
Dude, I thought of the exact same thing. I was going to say
we
it.
talk about it so much, and I say it both ways.
I'd say it differently depending on how I'm using it.
Data.
Like it's data.
Data.
Is it a
data sync.
northern and southern thing?
I say data. I think I say data on everything.
I mean, Patrick said data earlier.
What do you say?
Data boy.
I think I say data mostly.
I have no idea.
Data sync.
That's why we brought the expert in.
I can tell you this. I think at a lot of our trainings they say data sync.
Oh, they do. They
do?
do. Yeah, and it's not. I don't disagree. I mean, when I hear data, I don't think like, oh, that person's weird. I just immediately translate it into data.
Yeah, I don't think
I do
about
too.
it.
But like IntelliFarm, like Patrick's logo right there, IntelliFarm, data-driven solutions by Wade Incorporated.
I think I use it both ways. On this, I may have said data the whole time, but I don't even think about it. So
But look here. I know what to
This is
do.
really turning the needle. But
I know
mean,
what to do. We ask the listeners.
Yeah.
Is it data or is it data?
Let us know.
Let us know at On the Tailgate at Wade Incorporated. Patrick,
Comment on our Facebook.
yeah.
And they're gonna read the same thing.
What?
Send us voice memos.
I need you to.
I think it sounds like data. No, I think it sounds like data too. Read the exact same way.
Just send a video.
I need you to phonetically spell it.
And if
So
Yelp-
like DAHTA, data, or DAYTA. That's what I'm looking for in the inbox at onthetailgate at wadeinc.com. That's it for the setup episode. Patrick, again, thank you. And I'm sure we'll see you again on maybe an episode like later. So thank y'all for listening. Be sure to email us with anything, suggestions, feedback. You got a guest you want on the show or a topic you want covered, let us know at On the Tailgate. Until next time,